Yeah, Mobi team, and it's indeed a privilege for us to be here, and we really appreciate this opportunity to address all of you. Yeah, talking about blockage. Blockage has been very active in this space for the past 3-4 years. We have been building products as well as competencies around the entire spectrum of the implementation value chain of blockchain, starting from consultancy, and then helping our customers, existing customer base, with appreciating the value of blockchain, and then developing use cases, as well as enabling them to implement POCs, pilots, educating them about the various use cases of blockchain, as well as also working alongside them to transform their existing operations by integrating and imbibing blockchain into their entire spectrum of applications, what they offer to their clients. So we are also talking to a number of organizations who are planning to, or industry groups planning to launch blockchain based applications with the help of consortiums. So we have been very actively engaged in a number of conversations to imbibe blockchain, and we have been valued partner of AWS, as well as Azure, Microsoft, as well as Google Cloud, and SAP, Salesforce, number of leading global organizations, and we offer products and services from these valued partners to our entire user base. Many of them are from Fortune 100 companies. So we have customers like Trimble, Resilient, Novartis. About we have been in the past 2 years. We have been very active in the pharma and healthcare domain, but we have very much interest in the BFSI, as well as agri, as well as a number of governments across the world. So we have been having marquee customers across a number of domains. So we have been Raj, can you go to the next slide? So we are very passionate about this new paradigm of blockchain, as well as we want to make this transition a smooth and seamless process, not only for large players, but a number of small companies which find it very, very challenging to get the right type of manpower and get access to the tools, as well as also invest in a large scale infrastructure and be a part of this ecosystem. So as we engage with a number of clients or potential clients, we have been coming across, we have been exposed, to a number of challenges, and as we work alongside them, we are also trying to evolve along with them, because this is a totally new paradigm, and it's with this decentralized and distributed nature of blockchain, has not is not what most of our existing customers or governments or the traditional businesses are exposed to, right? Because we are all used to a centralized way of working, centralized, and we internalize and we implement it. We know very clearly, whether it's going to work, or if it's going to work, what is the sort of investment that it entails, as well as a return of investment that could, it could potentially have, and whether it's working or not, right? But blockchain is an inter-enterprise, inter-party, paradigm wherein multiple enterprises have to come together, and it, of course, it leverages a lot of multiple technologies, whether it is cryptography or hashing, or encryption, encoding. All these technologies it use, and it uses the concepts like decentralization and distributed ledger to arrive at a number of properties that make it much more appealing to implement trusted transactions between parties who are hitherto unknown to each other, right? So in a decentralized atmosphere. But what happens is, what we say is blockchain is going to act like a trusted third party, through a system and the infrastructure, eliminating the need for very, very powerful intermediaries or those parties who have been, hitherto offering the trust and charging a lot for it. And for example, traditionally we would deal with large parties like Amazon or Facebook, etc., in the respective domains, because the trust is being offered by these players, and they charge a lot for that, as well as they also have the power over all the data that they have been collecting, etc. But blockchain is abstracts all these things away, and with the help of it, system put together with all these new tools and technologies working and paradigms working together, it replaces these trusted third parties with a system led a total system that eliminates the need for these parties to be there. So that's where it just one second. So what happens is, this being a new paradigm, when we go to the customers, so where we naturally keep speaking to large customer groups, or very, very powerful customers to to be the anchor parties for investing in this sort of products and solutions. But these parties would naturally feel that, are we are trying to to cut through their domination, or cut through the importance that they have, and then we are creating a democratic atmosphere that would make even smaller players also be to work on an equal footing with them, right? So that's sort of a insecurity that could creep in a number of times, that could needs a lot of education, a lot of overthinking, a lot of strategic mindset, and the part of the early adopters to be able to really visualize a large picture and then come on board. So this sort of the mindset change, that is what it will help in. It will take some time for us to achieve, and that's when the adoption of blockchain could rapidly scale. So, but as of now, the early adapters, as well as the people who have been in our business like us, who have been talking to these large customers, we have to deal with it. We have to engage with all of them, and we have to show compelling use cases. Otherwise, we would be seen as somebody who is chasing the customers with a solution for a problem, rather than problems solving problems with solutions. So that way we have to really face a number of challenges as people who are in this business, to educate. For example, when we go to one of the largest automobile organizations in India and try to market blockchain to them, they would say that we are having the most automated solution in the entire industry, and starting from the manufacturer to the ultimate dealer. And our automation is such that we get an end-to-end picture of our entire all the parts. So where do we require a blockchain? Why do we require a blockchain? That's where we have a problem in convincing them about the need to implement blockchain, because they would feel that their dominance would one day be questioned, and smaller parties will be able to offer the same level of trust by leveraging the blockchain which they are helping create, right? So that's where we have a big challenge. And apart from that, the blockchain is in a nascent stage, so the number of entire technology is evolving. So we have a problem in terms of credentials of the platform, how many solutions you have implemented, what are use cases do you have right now, where they're all in production, what is the ROI, and how many developers you would be having, whether these people would be able to conceptualize, visualize, as well as implement the solutions, blockchain solutions. So a number of there's a lack of capabilities and skills that are required to sustain and support large-scale applications. And because right now there is no precedence, it is very difficult to imagine and create a lot of standardized solutions for businesses. So that is where we see a lot of experimentation going on, a lot of collaboration going on with academic institutions between large organizations, and to be able to really come out with problems that require a solution like blockchain that could and that could really prove the ROI, right? So another important thing is blockchain is being handled with between multiple organizations. So there is a need for high level of security and compliance, and so the trust of the partner who is offering the solutions, that matters a lot, right? So any smaller, I was working alongside a organization as a consultant, wherein there's a smaller company but offering blockchain based applications to large companies, and they would be charging say about a lakh of dollars per year. So, but the thing is, on the blockchain platform, they would be running at $1 billion of transactions would be stored. So they have to depend on smaller, vendors, because most of the blockchain vendors, platform providers, they are very small. So that is where governments have not yet come out with regulations, like offering approval to operate for parties who, by assessing their capabilities and to ability to offer solutions of this nature, which would store permanently or per perpetuity the data as well as solutions. So, and when you handle offer the solutions for perpetuity, then you require phenomenal amount of data storage capability that is proven, right? So all this infrastructure provision and ability to offer security, ability to provide governance, so that the smaller players who are also part of the ecosystem and consortiums don't feel sidelined. So these are all still in the evaluation stage. Large consortiums like TradeLens, which have taken a lot of time to come together as well as stabilize. They have also gone through this, teething troubles, and it takes, really a lot of time to for each, consortium to stabilize and put together a proper governance in place. So that's where we are having challenges right from the, inception of a blockchain project. We call it, we have a severe, starting trouble, right? So we have a starting trouble to kickstart this, and when we have a lot of operational issues to run and sustain and maintain and prove the ROI, and then we also have, when it starts growing, we have a lot of issues related to governance that need to be solved. So there are a number of challenges and considerations, and we at Blockedge, we have been trying to evolve, along with the industry as well as our customers, and trying to overcome all these problems. And then we have been trying to imbibe, all these things, and trying to evolve our products and solutions so that we will be able to address all these things and help our customers to be able to implement blockchain seamlessly, right? Yeah. So as we see in the automotive industry, we see a number of use cases. There are different types of parties, whether it is part manufacturers, or OEM, or suppliers, or service centers, or ecosystems, a number of variety of transporters and warehouses, and there are multiple ecosystem players, and there are different stages of life for each of these products that get into the system, whether it is a raw material component or whether it is a finished product, that moves through the entire value chain from the raw material supply till the end, right? And when all these parties are interacting with each other and conducting transactions over these assets, number of use cases that are possible. And we have categorized these use cases into 4 categories, whether it's, truth ledger, which is starting from in a small scale initially when you start, where you store a little bit of data and not too much of, information. It would be like creating a certificate and storing it, along with the components, digital replica, and then being able to prove that certificate, that is certified across the value chain using a QR code, So I think Raj, can you go through the go to the next slide? We can talk about the four types of adoption. So we have this single user application deployed to bring in trust and eliminate third-party intermediaries. This could be like a blockchain-based certificate of maintenance, certificate of proof, etc. So for this, the initially when you start, the issue is the organizations, they because they are early stage of adoption, they have a problem in terms of conceptualizing as well as understanding of really the use case, as well as being able to implement it and then deploy it, and then visualize the ability to scale and also secure the transactions and over immutable ledger for all the certificates that are being created, right? So this is when we there are different types of blockchains straight away. In the long run, all the industries would be running consortiums wherein we have multi-party consortiums with public permission nature, where ability to a lot of people, ability to a lot of users to participate, and then we're able to see the view the transactions as well as the activities that are happening over the identities from the inception, from the time the item gets into the system till the time it is retired, or various other types of use cases that we develop. But it was it takes a lot of time to get to the stage. Initially they conduct some POCs in a single department or between departments in an organization, and there's a lot of education that goes on, and then as it evolves, they will be able to, all the entire organization gets comfortable with the concept of blockchain. They will be that's where we require ability to quickly launch a spin off a small network with a few nodes, maybe a single node, as well as conceptualize some pre-built dApps, and then implement the certain use cases, and then visualize the impact of that, right? So that's where that's how it starts, the journey. And then once they're comfortable, they join hands with go to the next slide, Raj. Then join hands with their raw material providers or their suppliers, the one step on both sides of the value chain, and then they would partner with them, and then they would try to implement some cross enterprise use cases, right? So that's where they will be automating some of the processes between these different a few of the enterprises, and then the still will be the dominant party or the player or the initiator would be working over time and trying to prove the use cases. And that's where we require to be able to undertake development of a lot of decentralized applications, expand the scope of the users from simple documentation use cases to a variety of other use cases which may involve asset tokenization and tracking of the assets across multiple ventures. And once they are comfortable, that's when people see that they're able to, the organizations have been able to successfully prove the use of blockchain, able to maybe reduce the cost or increase the transparency and offer more trust to the customers, as well as eliminate a lot of inefficient processes. That's how they're able to save maybe a lot of money and a lot of documentation time, or improve their productivity. That's when you will have more and more organizations across the value chain in the supply chain, with more, like for example, it could be freight forwarders, transporters, and then it could be governments, or it could be ports, it could be the distributors. All these people could be ported onto the blockchain, and then it gives a more comprehensive ability to track the movement of a part or a parts, or provenance, prove the provenance of the products across the value chain over multiple multiple parties, right? So that is where the use of blockchain starts being felt. right? Because now you are able to show it to the customer. Traditionally, in organizations which are not a part of blockchain, you cannot track the part across parties who are not part of the particular platform. For example, if you between the enterprise as well as distributor or retailer, to you can show the traceability, right? But if you implement a blockchain, then you will be able to show the traceability across other parties who are not traditionally governed by the dominant enterprise, like for example freight forwarders of ports or warehouses. All these people also should be able to update their records as well whenever the ownership changes, and or any transport conditions. All these things could be then tracked over a blockchain. So that's when you start feeling the impact of the various the potential of blockchain in the form of enhancing transparency, and also using standardized documentation, and also offer trust to the customer starts being felt, right? But that's not sufficient. That's, you still won't get the complete impact of blockchain unless you have the entire ecosystem. That's when you require a proper governance to be put in place. And then once the governance is put in place, that's when you have a lot of competitors as well as smaller organizations. All those people also will be able to join hands, and then you will be able to create a fully decentralized public permission blockchain system with all the processes ironed out, so that you will be able to, and maybe data management practices, all these things are ironed out, so that you will be able to then onboard a lot of competitors and a lot of smaller players, a lot of enterprises, and it becomes a truly global scale multi-enterprise decentralized platform. That's when it becomes versatile, and then it will have its own life, own governing body, own methodologies and applications. This when then you can seamlessly scale, and then you start, because the number of transactions crosses the threshold level that offers the return on investment. That's when you will start feeling the full impact of blockchain. But here again, there are a lot of challenges, because you require a lot of decentralized applications to be conceptualized, to be built, to along for the right type of use cases, as well as all these things then need to be integrated into the backends. So there are different ways in which these consortiums come to life, whether the consortiums are initially conceptualized, and then organizations have started joining them, and then integrating their data into the blockchain, or large organizations they create this particular blockchain platforms, and then offer the middleware also support to organizations who are wanting to join the consortium. So either way, there is a lot of integration related issue. So all these issues we have been grappling, and then we have come out with the solutions across the entire spectrum of starting to feel the use case, or design the use case, or develop and deploy and then distribute. So across this entire spectrum of the life cycle of blockchain consortiums, we have there are challenges to be felt, and there is still a lack of competence from organizations who can support end to end. And another important problem is the challenge of getting the manpower, skilled professionals who can support the organizations in this entire thing. And above all, most important thing we find is the business cases are still not really proven, and so apart from the technology demanding nature of the technology that goes alongside implementation of blockchain, the business aspect of in a multi-party scenario, the right type of use cases that nail the problem of ROI, and then give the all the investors the returns on such a massive project. So those things will take time to establish. So these are all lead to challenges. We hope to work alongside Mobi and number of clients, and then solve in the in the future as it happens. Yeah, Raj. Yeah. Now I hand over to Raj to take us through the technology elements and the challenges that we face in there. Yeah. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Srinivas. Good morning, everyone. I'm Raj. Okay. So in what we are going to go through today is from my side is the technical aspect of the challenges, right? So the journey that I'm going to take now is basically highlight the challenges, the technical challenges currently, in place for blockchain adaptation in enterprise in general and automotive industry in particular, and then go address the challenges in such a way that, let's say, if we try to form a solution for it, and then see how we go there, right? So that is the idea of this presentation journey, right? So, what are the typical challenges we expect, right, from blockchain environment? Right? Blockchain being there for quite some time now, but still, these are some of the mid to high level challenges that I've mentioned here. So basically, cost sensitive deployment model. Each of them might look very simplistic, or but each of them, I'll probably give some instances in each where each one becomes really a large scale problem to grapple with, right? So cost sensitive deployment models mean, like, let's say we take any blockchain, right, like a private Hyperledger Fabric or Ethereum. So we see that there is a lot of moving parts and atomic parts in there. For example, you have a peer, you have a channel, especially in Hyperledger, and you have there's a lot of transactional oriented parts that are there, and each of them should be communicating with each other in such a way that this the complexity of this is much more higher when you're talking about not just one, two, but tens and hundreds of nodes, right? So in other words, one of the customers, and each one can be a customer, or and each customer can say, I just want to be part of a simple blockchain, right? Not a huge blockchain. And just give me the simple version of a Hyperledger Fabric, right? Some of them might say, no, it's a big consortium model. We want at least 20 nodes to be set up with just one, solution, right? And some of them can say, okay, even with this 20 nodes, each of us to have a huge scale. Like, for example, we are expecting transactions at the rate of 20 transactions per second, or 30 or 40 transactions per second, or even higher, right? 100, 200 transactions sometimes. So give me the scale, right? So each one, there's a cost associated with it, and each one can go for the same use case, depending on how they want to perceive it. Their spending levels, their flexibility, and also there is a threshold for each use case also, because you cannot go below a threshold transaction level for the models to succeed. But this is one of the major challenges we see in industry today, right? So how to address this, right? Just like any other software, you have a common denominator. You have people who go below the just above the common denominator, a lot higher above. So how do we address that in the deployment as a deployment model problem, right? The second is the onboarding velocity, right? So this is again an interesting problem. Let's say you have a blockchain where there are people who are going to node hooked on with a cell phone, and also there could be a node in an enterprise cloud, like an AWS cloud or an Azure cloud, and there could be an on-prem peer also, right? So how do you onboard all of these folks at a real quick time, right? So that the network gets going, right? So how to do that for a wide range of audiences in terms of a blockchain, permission blockchain, for private permission blockchain. The third is the availability and scalability. Here again, let's take to the transactions per second argument here again. How do you make sure that there's a cluster, and we are trying to scale the blockchain for even for a small group of peers? How do you scale it, right? So how do we do Kubernetes or any equivalent service model, so that and automatically, right? Because when you start doing all of these manually, that's where the problem comes. So I'm slowly going towards my solution also here. And availability is another issue, right? For example, I mean, there are, you can definitely say, and availability is not a critical issue because blockchain works. You definitely get back your data because of the way, the ledger process works, the distributed ledger process works, but still it's critical that you don't lose out anything, as an enterprise, right? Especially from a blockchain use case perspective. The fourth item is the network standards and policy enforcements. Here again, I would say, okay, how do you make sure that you don't do this manually, right? For example, there's a different policy consensus mechanisms you would want to enforce for different use cases for the same consortium. how do you do that? For example, a proof of work in one of the use cases, a proof of authority in another, proof of stake in another, and how do you again join peers, in each of these use cases for the same consortium, in a seamless way, right? Because you don't want to go through the manual process of doing it, because that is where the challenges get compounded, because you need skilled people, subject matter experts doing this, and a lot of configuration changes at the back end for just to come online, for a node to come online. So there's a lot of challenges there, right? The fifth one item is the software and operational maintenance across all nodes. This is a topic that it just come into existence because a lot of we can see that lot blockchain platforms, a lot of the blockchain platforms are basically giving a lot of versions right now, because we have moved on from the 1.0 versions. Hyperledger is in 2.3 right now from 1.4. Similarly, Ethereum is going from 1.0 to 2.0. So there's a lot of changes that are happening, and people would want to migrate from 1.0 to 2.0 or 1.4 to 2.3, and also make sure that while they are doing it, they don't lose the data, and all the partners in the network are migrated at the same time. Or if you're going to do a traditional part by part migration, nobody loses the data in the distributed ledger, things of that sort. How do you make sure that happens? Right now the software maintenance problems come into picture. And similarly, operational maintenance. So operational maintenance in the sense, like, how do you maintain the certificates, the tokens, if there's a wallet, and how do you maintain the wallet management process? So there's a lot of it could be even, it is still growing. I think this part is where a lot of things are happening right now, the operational parts. And network security and compliance is last item, but I would say this is primarily the most important item, because if you look at all the items on top of this, it scales through all of these, right? Because you have to have basic security and compliance across all these challenges, right? Because any of these challenges would need a secure network, secure peer, secure certificate-driven operation for data in transit, data in rest, and you would also want selective encryption of data. So there's a lot of issues there, and edge security also comes into play, because some of the nodes we see are now going in mobile phones, right? So basically, you would want to have the edge security that now going beyond the enterprise boundaries. So how do you address all this, right? So these are the challenges that will present. And apart from this, there's one challenge that we have not put in here, which will be an important input to the solution, is the interoperability challenge, right? Which is basically, if you look at the current blockchain mechanisms, right? Most, I would say, a lot of the enterprises that want to go to blockchain are basically wanting to have their existing systems interoperate with the blockchain system. Like, for example, they have an ERP or a CRM system that they want to interact with the blockchain networks, so that they can get the data either through oracles or some manual process into the blockchain network. So there is like how Srinivas talked about, right? So basically, there's a lot of use cases they can achieve, provenance or change management. There's a lot of things that you can achieve through that. So that interoperability is also a critical path in challenges. We have to address that challenge also, because that's when you can make enterprise move through the system of adaptation of blockchains with existing applications. So with that background, right? So what are the key aspects of accelerating the blockchain adoption? Infrastructure and network automation. So the challenges that we saw, if we can have a solution that can basically automate the network infrastructure process and all the other challenges that is associated that we just talked about, right? If you do that, not just at the inception stage of a blockchain, not just creating a peer or inviting others to join in, or just maintaining the network, higher order of challenges, like how to scale, how to be available, how to make sure security is there from the day one, of even the starting of the network, right? So how automation can be done with all this in mind is I think is the key, and that is what I think is going to drive the blockchain as a platform service in the future, right? And the second is the interoperability model, what the standardized IT integration models, because enterprises would want to have that connection between the existing enterprise systems or even standalone applications to be hooked onto blockchain. I think that's when they don't want to replicate, the existing processes, right? They don't want to create new forms, new DApps. That's not where they want to go. They want to focus on the backend part of the blockchain, in the data-centric part, and write smart contracts in a better way so that you manage the blockchain networks better. So I think these are the two important aspects. If you address, if a solution can address these two in a correct way, right? I think it's going to help the adoption of the blockchain better to the industry folks. So to that goal, right? So how we can atomize this problem, right? So basically, this is a building block presentation of how this can be achieved, right? For example, I've just put 4 layers here, and there is a security and compliance on the right side. So basically, whatever we do from the bottom to the top layer, security and compliance is a must from day one. Is what that implies. So I just would want to focus that first, and then come back to this part where multi-cloud foundation, because that is going to be the base for all the blockchain enterprise networks, right? So basically, what happens is, let's say if you want to have a blockchain, a truly democratic blockchain network that Srinivas was talking about, like because of various constraints each enterprise have. For example, some enterprise would have been committed to a particular set of cloud providers, or it could be even on-prem, or it could be even a data center, a private cloud phenomenon. So there's a lot of range of adaptations people would have already been committed to. So it is highly necessary that we cater to that and we respect that, and that's where the multi-cloud foundation comes in. So if the solution can have a part where all the clouds can be accommodated, it could be even a private cloud or on-prem, or it could be AWS, all the public cloud providers, right? AWS, Azure, IBM, Oracle, oracles of the world, can they be accommodated in such a way that any provisioning process of an infrastructure for blockchain, right? Not just a one blockchain network or multiple blockchain networks or even consortiums and clusters, all can be accommodated in an automatic fashion. I think that is where most of the battle is, right? Because once you have the provisioning done correctly and in an ongoing way, right? If you can address that in an ongoing way through an automation process, I think most of the job is there, right? I'm not saying the others are not important, but that is the solid foundation on which everything will be built. So you can do the containerization part correctly, the adaptation of the cloud SDKs correctly, and there's a lot of different things that we can do with the cloud resource, the cloud DNS managers automatically coming into play for different domain addressing parts. If all of these can be done automatically, especially when you have different protocol mechanisms, for example, gRPC, TCP/IP protocols for Hyperledger or Ethereum, such similar protocols and different protocols for each platform. If all can be addressed right in one solution, that will be really helpful for the people, for the enterprise folks to adopt to it, right? The second level is the blockchain networks. Here again, like I said, the key element is how can one solution be rendering different blockchain platforms in the same solution. Like for example, let's say once we have the cloud foundation, now comes the part of rendering, for one consortium, for one use case, the consortium wants to use Hyperledger because of certain reasons, and then for the other they want to use Ethereum, and another they want to use Quorum. So how do we do that? Right? So that is where the automation will help. The platform can automatically bootstrap the necessary elements for that particular platform to automatically deploy in the cloud environment. That will take care of the various components, like I talked about, the atomic components like channels, peers, smart contract provisioning and things like that in an organized way, and also in a retractable way. Sometimes you would want to go a little bit farther into the process, but you decide, okay, no, this is not good for Hyperledger. I want to switch to Quorum or Coda, something like that. So how do you retract also? So it should be the automation mechanism should be both a forward and reversible process. I'm not saying it can reverse. It cannot reverse beyond a certain point, because once you start putting data into a particular blockchain network, you would have to at least fork from it, or you have to continue it until you decide to go to another blockchain. So at least to a certain extent, if it can be automated. And then comes the I would skip the third part for now and then go to the fourth part, where our actual blockchain network, like example, this is where the world interacts with the blockchain network. This is where the DApps layer is. The blockchain is there, the DApp is there, the data is there. Any data warehousing process can happen, to chain, to take data off the blockchain, off-chain process can happen. And this is where the business solutions are going to be interacting with the blockchain. But there is a third layer, the IT systems integration layer, which is going to be a glue between the blockchain networks and the business solution. That is the part that I referred in my previous slide as previous slide as the standard IT integration model, because this is where the important part comes for adaptation, right? So once you have a solid integration framework set up here, then enterprises will be basically attracted towards it, so that they can complete the puzzle, right? They can complete the puzzle between their solutions and the underlying blockchain networks and the cloud foundations. So I think so given this picture, and obviously the security and compliance of building the network to the final business start using the DApps, and they put data either through DApps or through oracles or through machine processes, however they are, it is going to the security and compliance are going to be key for all the 4 layers. So with that, I'll basically go briefly into some of the important items that the two parts that I talked about. The first part is the part where automation of some of the important parts of the pyramids I'm going to talk about here. Like in the previous slide, I have security and compliance all through, from the start of the provisioning process to the basically the preliminary basic processes which are definitely needed to start any blockchain, like identity access management. Certificate automation is another key item that we are seeing. A lot of customers, they get, because there's a lot of certificates get involved in a typical blockchain network. You can easily run into hundreds of certificates, in a typical network. You have to do it correctly, expiries and whatnot with the certificates, and then and then the node security comes into play from day one. So those are listed on the right. The left side is the important thing, right? So cloud management starts to begin with cloud management. So what all can be automated? A solution can help in automating these, right? So basically the qualification, right? For example, you can the enterprises can choose between a particular provider, which will help their cost for that particular use case or a platform that they want to choose, blockchain platform. And once they've chosen this on certain criteria, they can go about building the IPFS storage management with that, and cloud scaling mechanisms through the Kubernetes layers, or any auto scaling they would want to set up. Domain provisioning automation, this I briefly talked about. Like, for example, once you have peers joining the networks, they have to have their independent domains. At the same time, they should, those should be addressed at the center point, like at the genesis of the network, right? So so how those communications can happen automatically, so that the blockchain nodes can automatically get attached to the process, right, as they come into the provisioning or onboarding process. And the VPC, region management, is another key process that we found that some of our customers, they want to have specific peers in a specific networks or specific regions, so that they can be available all the time or could be closer to their environment. Similarly, it will be easier to maintain DR, disaster recovery processes, also because of that. Also the CI/CD pipeline. This is another important concept that is currently we are seeing. There's a lot of customers who would want to do POCs, but they also want to do it in a way that it can be formalized, right? So that if they're going to set up something in the cloud, how to do it in a formalized way in a CI/CD pipeline, so that it can be repeated for different use cases. The second is the network build out part, which is the important part. Once the cloud part is automated and the solution can address that, how the network build part can happen, right? So this is where the important aspects of API wrapping and for a particular blockchain network platform comes in. It could be Hyperledger or Ethereum or Corda. So basically, you should have the automation mechanism wrap the correct layer of APIs, and then do the automation of the Docker container process, and lastly, the Kubernetes process, right? Because if they want to do clusters, how to do it automatically in the solution, right? Because that is going to be the key for the success of that particular node. So that is going to be the build out process, right? And the third part is the blockchain network management part, where once you've set up the cloud and the blockchain network, how to make sure that the management of the network happens correctly, right? So that involves, to start with, how to do provisioning of different members, like by invitation process, or by however you want to do it, right? So this, because of the policies that the consortium might want to define, the provisioning process can vary. So the automation should take care of that, and then once provision, they should start using the process and start using the infrastructure immediately. For example, they should be able to do the automation of smart contracts integration, and even building of smart contracts in a quicker way, and so that they can easily integrate and deploy to this network easily, from their own peer. And then the consortium network policy management. Here again, it should not be configuration based, right? If they want to be, if they want to have a policy done, it has to be, UI driven or self-service portal driven instead of a configuration driven software. So configuration model, right? Software upgrades and maintenance, this we talked about. How can you do it automatically, and reporting and alerts and monitoring. So these become part of the operational parts of the network, right? So the idea is how to do this not just for one blockchain platform, but multiple blockchain platforms for multiple cloud providers across, and also other different types of installations like on-prem or private clouds. So how to do that? That is the problem in hand that we are dealing with, right? So if you address this to some extent, I think people will be attracted, the folks will be attracted to blockchain as a viable solution. So this comes here comes the interoperability part, right? The interoperability is key, where some of the parts that I've mentioned here are framework kind of environments, because let's say if the solution can do an API gateway model, where it can do basically attract data from ERPs and CRMs and SAP systems, and basically have a running model of maintaining the gateway through plugins, security plugins, and OAuth and SAML process, so that nobody else is using the API gateway, and only that enterprise is using it, so that they can send data to the peers, through the blockchain correctly. And so the API integration becomes the beginning point of the interoperability model, right? It could be a gateway, it could be a API server. It depends on what the enterprise wants to do with it, right? The second aspect is the messaging and event management. Some of the folks that we talked about in some enterprises, what they're saying is they have a huge messaging environment, right? Especially from the SAP model, where there's a lot of event-based, provenance, or even supply chain processes happening. So in these cases, especially in auto industries, there's a lot of parts that are moving to make a finished product. So you have a lot of serial numbers being tracked. So here comes the microservices or even async message processing, that basically tracks the events, and basically through webhooks or even subscription mechanism, calls back this SAP is like a callback mechanism to get back the data, so that they can start building the data themselves. I mean, this interoperability layer itself can start building the data instead of waiting for the actual data to arrive to them. Right? So this is an important part. In some cases, we see there's an integration between API and messaging. That is also a combined. That's why we call this a framework. And if this framework can address in a mix and match manner, it will help the cause. So the payload transformation is the third part, where there's multiple blockchain. We've seen one use case where same enterprise is dealing with 5 different blockchains, and they want to send the same data in 5 different modes to different blockchains. So this is where the interesting part comes. How do you do payload handling, right? Dynamic payload handlers or transformers. I would say even connectors, right? Between the source and the destination in a particular format, and how to do encryption and signing of payloads, and this Oracle management, because machine generated payload automation is now getting very fashionable. So I think that is where there's a lot of action is going to be in the future, this payload transformation layer. And the last but not least is the Elasticsearch part, where you definitely need, because of the volume of data here and the way blockchain is going to grow for a lot of these private permissioned networks, you need to have an elastic search layer, which could be again a cloud agnostic. If you want to have like a ELK that could be deployed in different clouds, because each of these is available as an open source. We can go to any other Elasticsearch mechanism. It need not be ELK, could be anything else. So, but that is another framework model that we think will be helpful here. So with these two layers, right, the automation layer and the interoperability layer, what we have done is, what we are showing is a product that we have built. It's called the Blockedge. so what this does is basically we have tried to address some of these problems that because we ourselves hit those problems when we started building this. That's why it's kind of evolved that we have to address these, and it got built as a solution. And this is a typical MobiNet node deployment where for a Mobi consortium, we are showing an Ethereum platform with a cluster. It's all these were generated today, as you can see, January 11th, through our Kubernetes as a service model within the product. So the idea is to make sure that the scaling happens at scale, at time, right, at part time. So basically, you don't have to have people employed to to do this. It should be automatically done through a Kubernetes as a service process. So this is showing a cluster list on the left, and the master node list and the worker node list, where there's a 4 worker nodes with pods defining the smart contracts and the peers and the other configuration material that is needed for that peer to work in different pods, right? So, and also the distributed ledger in a different pod. So we are just showing an example of how this can be built. Obviously, we also have a complete support for Hyperledger platform. Also, with the 1.3 and the 1.4 and the 2.3 versions also. So this is just an indication of how a problem can be addressed through a solutioning process, through automation and interoperability. And this is just just to show how that can be deployed in a product. I'm not saying this product is way up there. It is not there. We are still trying to figure out certain aspects of the product of the material I mentioned before. But at least this is an attempt towards that goal, right? This product solution. So with that, I open it for Q. I think I have some more time, but hopefully it's okay.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for maybe one question. So one question is, can you say more about the automotive use cases currently under development? The overview slide was very instructive, but it would be good to know more about who the main actors driving these use cases are, like manufacturers, key suppliers, startups, or are these use cases where are there use cases where the main drivers come from other sectors or fields?
Yeah, one use case I would talk about is this is for a automotive manufacturer we are trying to do. It's a DevOps use case that we are trying. It's an interesting use case where some of the DevOps process need to be tokenized in such a way that there's no there's a transparency across the different aspects of the agile software management process. So that is one of the processes that we are doing is for one of the auto manufacturers we are looking at as a POC. So so that is one of the major initiatives that we are looking at. Apart from that, there are other. Srinivas, do you want to chime in on other use cases that you talked about?
I think you're muted.
Yeah, so globally, of course, there have been well-documented high-profile use cases, whether it's the POC or pilot stage, whether it's for marketplace for, automobile spare parts by, Boeing or BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Ford. They're working on supply chains and payment reconciliations or loan repairments or insurance, right? At our end, we have in India, it's a little muted in terms of the adoption of blockchain because still the policies, all these things, regulatory framework is coming into, it's taking its own time, and people are still not, outgoing as far as blockchain applications are concerned. But we are working on with some of the leading automobile manufacturers as well as some of the new players also who are into electric vehicles, right? So they want to explore blockchain for their parts, traceability or forecasting, demand supply match, as well as also tracking of the tools in the manufacturing, or also another important thing people have been talking about, but we have still not got our hands fully onto it, is the electric vehicle charging, right? So they want to explore how blockchain can be leveraged for electric vehicle charging. And ultimately, people are sensing that in the automobile industry, as it becomes more and more technology driven and digitized, they feel that there is a lot of potential for capturing the lot of data and also creating a data marketplace, right? Whether and then marketing the data for use, even for whether it is for other industry use cases, like whether it's for loans or whether it is for insurance, or or ability to forecast the demand, and ensure the right products are manufactured, or or come out with the development of new products and services, or getting into diversification. So all these things, some of the enterprising manufacturers who are into electric vehicles, they are very small in size, but they have been very very much focused, and we have been working closely with them to evolve some use cases. So, but globally, I think if you talk about use cases, some of the best use cases are around the supply chain and marketplaces, as well as your autonomous vehicle driving, which could be hacked. So you should be only whitelisted drivers or owners should be able to access the vehicle data, as well as control the vehicles. So yeah, this is all evolving. I think a lot of these POCs and pilots are also being under the initiatives of the MOBI consortium. So we are also a part of MOBI consortium. So we'll be working along with a number of the partners to evolve some of this. Yeah.